I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
Guys, do not forget to comment, since I really try to read every single one of your comments and you can be featured in the next video. Thank you so much. Your support is really, really well appreciated. Al Gore. Al Gore. What if Al Gore won in 2000? Well, probably the first thing, climate change would be over. No, I'm just kidding. Probably wouldn't. But it's fun to remember that he was one of the first politicians to remind us that the planet is being fucked over. So that's the first. Second, I don't really know. The 2000 election was so fucking close. It wasn't it like 2,000 votes in Florida that really decided the election. I mean, that is close as it gets. But of course, he won the popular vote, and that's the whole American debate about the electoral college. Let me know, guys, what you think about this. Let's watch. Oh no.
Mr. Vice President,
You won the 2000 election.
well, this calls for a celebration.
No, copyright. No.
Al Gore, the man,
The myth, the
Al
legend.
Gore. For a relatively bland politician who was vice president for Bill Clinton 20 years ago, there's quite a few ways you may know of him. The climate change stuff, man,
Yeah.
bear, pig.
I have ridden the mighty moonworm.
There is, however, one major thing we all remember about Al Gore. He lost an election. But it wasn't just that he lost an election.
He lost
John Kerry lost,
the
and
election.
who remembers him? Al Gore lost the election of 2000 by the slimmest possible margins. And the craziest finale
was
to an election
tiny,
season
bro.
America
I
has
mean-
ever seen, up until, you know. And this was before anybody at the time knew 2000 was going to be an incredibly defining era for a commander-in-chief. And this is a question I've gotten a lot. What if Al Gore had won? I think this question is less about Al Gore the man, and more knowing how the US responded to 9/11 with George W. Bush. And it all began in 2000, when on election night, Florida became too close to call. So that's where we'll
God damn it,
begin.
Florida. You're always ruining everything.
And
Jesus
in alternate
Christ.
2000, the results for Florida.
I'm kidding. I
come
actually
in,
kind of like
and
Florida.
Every news network calls it for Al Gore.
Hey,
This scenario,
oh shit.
Florida stays blue. There is no too close to call. Instead, on election night, George
Aw.
W. Bush gives a concession speech and congratulates Al Gore as the next president of the United
Oh,
States.
he just
But
okay.
that's
okay.
only a footnote compared to the real event we all know from 2001. The real defining moment of Bush's presidency that changed everything. No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind was one of Bush's first measures
this a joke,
as
or-
president. A glimpse into what a peacetime Bush presidency probably would have looked like, mostly focused on tax cuts and attempts at education reform. And as a kid during this era, I can say No Child Left Behind was terrible. Essentially, it forced standardized testing into classrooms and schools, not for the sake of any kids learning or
I don't know a
grades,
lot about
but
this.
to see which schools were in need of federal spending. Tests that a young Cody, and I'm guessing many others, thought were important in their educational future, when
Oh.
really it was just about the school getting money.
I get it, yeah.
Yeah, Gore probably wouldn't have
We have those in Mexico too, and they fucking suck.
done that. I just want to complain about those stupid tests. Let's talk about 9/11.
yeah. Let's be very careful about
In the
this.
2002 9/11 Commission report, it was written that one major reason why the 9/11 plot was not discovered by U.S. intelligence until it was too late was blamed on, of all things, the 2000 election. The report concluded that
Really?
those months of chaos where no president was yet decided delayed an important time to build an administration, time Bush or Gore needed to appoint national security figures.
Yeah, because as far as I understand it, they fought for months in the courts. So again, you guys, I encourage you to tell me everything that you know more than me. Type it on the comments.
Instead of
Let's keep the
fighting
conversation
battle.
going, baby.
And by the time that Bush won, it still took a few months for U.S. intelligence agencies to get back to full operation. The
Yep.
important information coming out of the Middle East that
Bureaucracy.
might have prevented these attacks were overlooked, as the federal government was too disorganized to do anything. Even
Yeah.
in 2002, the commission said that had this delay not happened, then perhaps the attacks may not have happened at all. You could say, in some convoluted sense, Bush did 9/11.
Oh, no, 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 no.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, obviously, this was one report, and there were a ton of other factors that went into 9/11 happening. I personally believe no matter who was president, the attacks were going to happen. And in this alternate timeline, Al Gore is in the position of commander-in-chief to lead.
Yeah, the attacks would have happened, but it's interesting how would Al Gore and the Democrats would have reacted. To be honest, like let's be a little bit honest here. Like, are the Democrats, at least at that time, maybe now they are a little bit better, but they kind of loved war as well. And there wasn't, I remember, well, I don't remember, I wasn't there, but like the 2004 Kerry Bush election, basically John Kerry didn't have much of an argument against Bush, because he was also like supported the war, and he was a war veteran himself, which, just kind of adds up to the drama.
U.S. in this new post 9/11 America, Republican or Democrat, everyone wanted to go get the guys who did this. This wasn't because of some military-industrial complex. There was no plan to just stay in Afghanistan forever. This was very simple. We were attacked, we attacked them back. So had Al Gore been president, we still would have invaded
I totally
and
agree.
occupied Afghanistan immediately after the attacks. The Taliban are overthrown, Bin Laden still sneaks into Pakistan, and he stays there. The US is just stuck in the country. Now what does change is Iraq. Iraq was squarely a thing that the Bush administration just wanted to do.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently they had weapons of mass destruction that were never really found. But yeah.
Gore was an avid opponent
Politics,
against the war, mostly because
Fucking
it took
politics,
valuable
dude.
time and resources away from Afghanistan. So in an alternate timeline, the US doesn't invade Iraq. So even if 9/11 did happen and the US still went into Afghanistan, the war on terror would be a far smaller and less complicated conflict. The Iraq War also changed how the US would have left Afghanistan. Even in 2008, when Obama was running for president, his main promise
I
was
miss
that we would
Obama,
get
dude.
troops out of Iraq and Afghanistan. And then Afghanistan just continued on for another 10 years. Why was that? Well, it was because of Iraq, and all that happened in 2011. The US left Iraq in 2011, and immediately the entire nation devolved into civil war. The Iraq military fled and left military equipment for ISIS to then use, and so the plans for Afghanistan's withdrawal were delayed. Afghanistan needed more time in the cooker to make sure everything was right before the US leaves. Glad it was worth it. In such an alternate timeline without
That's a whole nother
Iraq
topic
or
on
the
itself.
withdrawal, the US would have left Afghanistan 10 years ago, and we probably would have seen the same collapse
Thank
happen
God.
too. But this time, with the death of Bin Laden being so recent in the minds of the world, it feel like the climactic end to the war. America went in to get Al-Qaeda, and then it ended with Bin Laden dead. Even if Afghanistan was not a stable nation, would then leave satisfied that they got their guys. But alright, in that sense, 9/11, no Iraq, the war is shorter, that's great. Assuming that the war on terror does not consume his presidency, this would be the main focus of his administration, the climate issue, resulting
Oh, yeah, dude. I really wonder what would have happened. Which, of course, the whole war thing is not great, but at least is better.
in new legislation
Better.
to invest in green energy and tax incentives for companies that cut down on greenhouse gases. Had he won re-election in 2004, which he probably would, then Gore would use Katrina as another example
Climate
of
change
climate
would be
Yet other than
over.
that, without the Iraq War, the U.S. would be
And I'm joking with
relatively
that. I'm not
peaceful.
being serious.
In fact, even the terrorism paranoia at the time might be calmer too. Gore was against the Patriot Act, and so either that act
Yeah, probably one of the worst policies ever made in America, the Patriot Act. Horrible.
doesn't pass,
It's very
or
anti-American.
significantly weaker than in our own timeline. There's still one major event in the 2000s that we all know.
Ooh,
wouldn't
2008.
change, the recession. It's argued over how much Bush contributed to the recession, but
lot.
I don't think he was a decisive factor. Just by how the banks and housing market were operating at the time, this was a house of cards
Well, yeah,
always
true.
going to fall. It could even be in the same
This was building up from the Reagan years, dude.
time frame of 2008.
Reagan?
So really,
Reagan?
that's the next guy's problem.
Ronald Reagan.
And with Gore being president for 8 years and leaving office in 2009, well, who's going to be his replacement?
I wish.
Predicting presidential results, as we know, is a difficult business. And I'm not going to say that the predictions I have going forward would be correct. The entire political world of the United States is fundamentally
McCain would have been
different in this
president.
alternate 2009 than in our own. There are some factors that make it easier to determine who's going to be the next president. So to wrap this up, I would imagine that Gore would win in 2000, it'd go McCain in 2008, Obama in 2012, he would serve 2 terms until 2020, and then a Republican that none of us would know about would win in an alternate 2021. Perhaps there'd be different people, but you and I both...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if we are looking at things like this, the war, we still fought with Afghanistan. The recession probably still happened. You know, a lot of people, Republicans that defend the oil industry, the coal industry, the jobs probably would have been lost. Democrats probably wouldn't be very popular. And it's like a cycle, right? You know, you gotta... at least for the past like 30 years, you got a Republican, a Democrat, a Republican, a Democrat, Republican, Democrat. So yeah, I agree. We probably would have gotten McCain, maybe 2 years of Obama later, and gosh, who knows?
both know that faces of...
Which I think, by the way, for 2024, I think Ron DeSantis, or DeSantis, however you pronounce his name, I think he's gonna run, dude.
the political landscape.
I think it's gonna be the
don't
nominee.
really change that much.
Anarcho-Bidenism going wild. What?
Now,
What he said about... Originally, I was going to have a long explanation about why I picked those candidates, but I left it on because it was boring. Okay, thanks. All right. I mean, no hate there.
Now, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound different at all. I want my money back. And that is true. On the map, in the grand scale, it doesn't seem like that much of a dramatic change. Just like the War on Terror itself, the real change was in a societal mentality, the excuse of bringing in the Patriot Act, or creating a culture of surveillance. That was the real change that the war brought. Invading Iraq and not finding any WMDs was a massive slap in the face to American prestige. And the fallout from that failure only extended a war that should have been over far sooner. Not only destroying any sympathies for the US following 9/11, but allowing other nations to move in as the good ones. It was a very real possibility that America could just invade a nation without much reason, and it's an event that will continue to haunt the United States. In the political terms, Bush ironically killed neoconservatism as a mainstream ideology.
Yeah.
As nobody, not even the Republicans of today, want to be associated with Bush or his administration. Had Gore won, it's pretty likely the
And that's really fucking bad because now look at the type of conservatism that we have in America. I mean, it's just fucked up.
GOP remains the party of Reagan instead of, well, you know. The US would see a calmer political landscape.
Orange guy.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
Of a drive on both sides of the aisle towards populism, a trajectory we're in the middle of today. One that if this video was made 20 years in the future, we'd have a clearer understanding of what damage the Iraq war
We're
truly
gonna have
did
Bernie, bro.
to the image of the US. So while on the map and in the big picture, not much seems to have changed. The day-to-day, the culture of politics we are smacked with every single moment simply doesn't exist. Instead, we'd already be 10 years on from the war in Afghanistan. 9/11, while still mourned today, wouldn't nearly be as close in the American mindset. We would have moved on. As 9/11 hasn't remained relevant because it was a big deadly attack, or because we never forget, it's remained in the American mindset because those attacks for 20 years were still affecting our lives. From September 11th up into the fall of Kabul, the War on Terror directly shaped US foreign policy, and it wouldn't have remained so ingrained if Iraq was simply not invaded. That calm is often difficult to express in videos like this, because you can't describe a political era that is stable. It just is. So when asking the question, what if Al Gore won, it isn't because Al Gore would have been just that good of a president.
Climate change
It's
would be
asking what the
over.
United States would be like if Bush wasn't in office to decide to invade Iraq. And that will be an ever-changing answer, as we're still dealing with the ramifications from just a few votes in Florida in the 2000 election. This is Cody of Alternate History Hub.
Woo! Thank you, Cody. Yeah, I guess sponsorship times and stuff. But guys, woo, what a video. First of all, let me tell you that if you like this reaction, please give a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you would like to support me financially, there are links on the description where you can check out links to classes that I have on Skillshare. So it's not giving me money, right? It's just checking out my classes, and maybe you can get a thing or two out of them. So that's one thing. Second, this was a great video. Go check Alternate History Hub, the original creator. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And I'll see you in the next video.